Welcome back to the next presentation in our series designed to help businesses making small amounts of hazardous waste comply with New Hampshire's rules. We've looked at pages 1 through 3 of the form and reviewed the basic storage requirements listed in section E of page 4. There's also some paperwork requirements you need to be aware of, and these are covered in section F at the bottom of page 4. The questions at the bottom of page 4 in section F are about your shipping papers used to send your hazardous waste off-site. These are called hazardous waste manifests, and the first question asks whether you hold on to copies of those manifests after the shipment leaves your business. The second asks if you're supplying a copy of it to DES. If you aren't, you should start now. To give you a little background on why we have these requirements, let's look more closely at how these shipping papers work. Before we had regulations, dangerous hazardous waste could go pretty much anywhere and no one would know, including the company that made it. Then EPA made it a national requirement that we have what's called a hazardous waste manifest that's required to go with every shipment of hazardous waste, from the place where it was made all the way to the place where it eventually ends up. The place it ends up might be a facility that destroys it, recycles it, or changes it in a way that just makes it less dangerous. This manifest has multiple paper copies that are kept by the businesses and regulators that have an interest in the transport and handling of it. Let's look at this example to show how a manifest works. For starters, a company has hazardous waste that they want to get rid of. They contact a transporter to pick it up and deliver it to a place called a Treatment, Storage, and Disposal Facility, or TSDF. That's the place that will do the disposal, recycling, or treatment to make it safer. It makes sense that the generator who makes the waste, the transporter, and the TSDF would each want copies of this manifest since they all handle it and would want a record just in case any problems came up later on. But state and federal regulators, that is, DES and the EPA, want to know about this shipment too, since they're also concerned about your waste getting to the location it's supposed to. It's their job to protect the public from improper disposal of this stuff. So those are the 5 different parties that are interested in tracking your waste. And they do this by getting copies of each manifest as it moves from site to site. Let's look at how this happens. The hazardous waste transporter arrives at your business to pick up your hazardous waste. Either they'll bring a manifest with them, or you'd have filled it out yourself ahead of time. That's up to you and the transporter to work out. The manifest is made of 5 pressure-sensitive copies or layers. You write on the top layer, and the ones underneath show what you write to. Before your waste leaves your business, you should carefully review it for accuracy. It's way too easy to make mistakes on these papers. Once you're confident that the information is correct, you, the generator of the waste, will sign the manifest and tear off the very bottom layer to keep for your own records. But hold on. That bottom copy is often so faint, most of the time you can hardly read it. So we recommend that before your transporter leaves with the rest of the manifest, make a photocopy or scanned image of the top page, the one that you can read. Then you'll have one that you can actually read, which is pretty important. While you're making that copy for yourself, you might as well make a second one. DES will want a copy too, since we want to be aware of shipments that are moving over public roads. The original manifest that your transporter supplies doesn't include a copy for a state regulator, so one more extra is needed. Now you'll have 7 copies total with all the information about your waste, where it's going, and with your signatures as well as the transporters. This documents the waste leaving your business, and it's an announcement to all the interested parties that, hey, a shipment of hazardous waste is leaving our facility. The transporter then takes your waste and the remaining 4 copies of the manifest. He'll deliver the waste to the TSDF, and they'll sign the 4 remaining copies showing that they received the waste just like they're supposed to. The transporter will take one of those 4 copies as proof that he completed his responsibility. The TSDF will keep one showing that they received the waste. That leaves 2 copies remaining. The TSDF will provide one of them to the EPA, who will record the information in their huge national database. DES can now look at this database online and also know that your waste made it to the TSDF. The last copy, showing that your waste got where it was supposed to, is sent to you. It's really important that you have this copy. This is your only proof that your hazardous waste went to the right place and isn't in a ditch on the side of the road or something. Whew, that's a lot of information. Don't try to memorize all that. Here's a quick summary of what you should do with your shipping papers. First, before you sign it, make sure everything is correct on the paper. It's really easy to make a mistake with all those little boxes to fill in. Second, when you're confident the manifest is accurate, sign it and make 2 duplicate copies. Keep one for yourself so that you have one you can read, and send the other to DES within 5 days. Lastly, make sure you get a copy back from the TSDF that your waste was sent to, so you have proof that it got there. It's important to note that the TSDF isn't always required to provide it to you, but you are required to have it. In New Hampshire, we believe they should be required to send it to you, but since these TSDFs are located in other states, we can't make them provide it. Some of them are really good about sending you a copy, but others aren't. If the TSDF that your waste is going to isn't providing a copy to you, by all means, bug them about it. Be a pest. This is your waste and your liability. You should certainly be able to get proof of your waste getting there. In Section F, question number 1, we ask if you're hanging on to these manifest copies. Check your files. You should have 2 copies of the manifest from each shipment. One from when the shipment left your business and one from the TSDF showing that it got there. You're required to hang on to these for at least 3 years, but I'd always advise that you hang on to them forever. They don't take up that much space anyway. By the way, it's fine if you have digital copies instead of paper. One more thing about this manifest system, just as extra credit information. We're in the middle of a slow transition to an electronic e-manifest system that'll switch from using paper copies to an all-digital system, the same sort of system that private package delivery services use. This will eliminate the need for paper copies to be carried and stored, hopefully making life simpler for everyone. We're creeping in this direction, and few businesses are committed to it yet, but I do want you to be aware that a change is in the works eventually. Earlier, I said you should make a photocopy or scanned image of the original signed manifest for your records so you have a copy clear enough that you could read it. I also said to make an extra copy for DES because we want to know when a hazardous waste shipment is on the road in New Hampshire. Obviously, we'd want to know this immediately if possible, not months after the waste was already moved. But when we're dealing with mailing paper copies, that isn't possible. So the requirement is that this be sent to DES within 5 days. This 5-day requirement seems like at least a reasonable compromise. In Section F, item number 2 of the self-certification form, we ask you if you're doing this. If you haven't been sending copies to DES, you can see the mailing address here so you know where to send them from now on. If you have a scanned digital version instead of a paper photocopy, you can instead email it to haswastereporting@des.nh.gov. It's even possible to fax to 603-271-2181 if that's your preference. Okay, that takes care of page 4 on this form. You're doing great. Hopefully, we've helped make these requirements a little more understandable and even explained why we have some of them. Now let's keep going through the rest of the form and get this thing done. We have more presentations to help you understand these and other regulations. But if you'd just like to talk to a person, we want to help. Give us a call at one of these numbers during normal working hours or send us an email. Please leave a message if we don't connect, and we'll return your call. If email is your preference, we've got you covered. You can reach us at sqg@des.nh.gov.